Today we go through playoff teams in NHL, and we'll start with the Western Division this time, and team that will barely go to the playoffs based on our simulation is Minnesota Wild. As you see from Tommy's shirt, he's a long-time Minnesota fan, but I think those guys who have been the reason for the fandom are now gone. Or how's the team roster this year? Who are your top players there?
This time around, the team is a little bit older, so there are still the main guys there. Definitely a surprise in our simulations that Minnesota is making the playoffs. It was really tight with Arizona, and of course there are then the California teams in the West that we predicted quite close to the bottom, but they have the potential to surprise as well. So Western Division might be a little bit weaker than the others, so there is a lot more contest for especially the last playoff spot there. Minnesota, of course, has been quite disappointing for a couple of seasons now. They've had pretty good teams, but never really performed to the level that is expected by many. They did make the playoff 6 years in a row, but they didn't really win anything. And then they failed the season before the last one. And of course, last season then ended up 10th, made it to the extended playoffs, but lost to Vancouver with a not very good performance. So Vancouver just ran over them, which was a bit worrying for Minnesota for sure. Their direction is a little bit lost. Maybe they are quite an experienced team, old team. Not a lot of young stars coming through. So it's interesting to see what will Bill Guerin as a GM do in his second season in charge now. He already has done some trades that have raised some eyebrows and not been taken very well in Minnesota. But how have we been doing with Minnesota in these couple of past seasons?
Minnesota has been a quite average team, so their home win percentage is 53. On the road, they have won 46% of their games, but accuracy of our predictions compared to the odds haven't been very good with Minnesota. Basically, only those expected value games on the road have generated some profit. Bit over 400 during these 3 seasons, and there has been almost 60% of those road games where bettors have found positive expected value based on our simulations. But one interesting highlight here is the back-to-back games that we'll see quite a few in this season, that especially at home, win percentage for those back-to-back games is only 40. So Minnesota may be the team that is not so fresh after the first game, and that would result poor performance in the second back-to-back game. So that is something that it would be good to monitor during the season and check a little bit the odds also, that if there is any worth bet on those back-to-back games, either on Minnesota or against it. How about the team? You mentioned that there is few experienced new players and then few of these cornerstone of the franchise like Zach Paris and Ryan Suter. But is this enough to really go to the playoffs with this roster?
Well, obviously the simulations think so, and I try to agree with that. The team is not that good, but it's very balanced, and even if they lack a little bit of the firepower, they have a lot of experienced players. They changed some of them. They're veteran players, but brought in also experienced guys. So it doesn't look like a team that would be doing any sort of rebuild. It's more of a retool and just changing the little pieces and try to do better. Of course, expectations are always high in Minnesota. They love ice hockey there, so it's not an easy place to do any sort of tanking for the better positions. I don't know if the simulations are a little bit too kind for the experienced older players who have been producing quite well, but let's see how it goes. And how have we been doing against these divisional rivals in the past?
Those matches have been quite, again, even with basically all the teams that are playing in Western Division. Minnesota has won 45 to 55% of those games, basically against every team. Only exception is Vegas Golden Knights. That is a bit surprising because Vegas is ranked a bit higher, and there Minnesota has been able to win 3 out of 4 games during the last 3 seasons. So win percentage 80 out of the 8 games that they played. And that shows that they have capacity and capability to win also, let's say, bigger teams. And if they work like 50% against mediocre teams and then win outright the bit lower end teams, maybe that's the formula for the playoff spot.
Yeah, that's probably how it goes because of the pretty exciting and weird season. So there is a lot of these mini playoff series as we've been talking about. So it comes down to beating your divisional rivals, and you can lose the games to some of the better teams as long as you beat the ones that you have to. To go a little bit in the Minnesota roster, they made, like I said, a couple of changes, more like head-to-head kind of stuff. Mikko Koivu left, Eric Stahl left, Devan Dibnik, the goaltender, left, but they brought in Nick Bonino, Marcus Johansson. They're in their 30s, the similar sort of players as the guys who left. Cam Talbot takes the number 1 goaltender role, and he has a backup from Finland, Kaapo Kähkönen, looking for a breakthrough in the NHL level. In defense, of course, Ryan Sutter, Jared Spurgeon, Matt Dumba, and Jonas Brodin make a really good top 4, especially defensively. So it makes it a little bit easier for Cam Talbot to shine if that is to come. But offensively, it's not that good a defense. And of course, because they don't have a lot of skill in offense, it will be difficult for Kevin Fiala, Jack Paris, and maybe Kirill Kaprizov, who finally arrived from Russia, to create enough goals, to create enough production to win games. But it might be that Minnesota will be a very defensive team this season and try to grind out the games, especially when they are playing in the West against these, let's say, prospective teams, but maybe not the best ones in the California, for example. But how about the season simulations in the past? I think we've been pretty accurate in the couple of, at least the 3 last seasons.
Yeah, that's correct. Last year we predicted Minnesota to go over 87.5 points, and in 69 games they got 77. So if they would perform as rest of the season, they would barely easily go over that Vegas line. Then 2 years ago, their performance was very similar. They got 83 points of the full season, but they were still number 9, 10 in Western Conference. Our prediction that time was that they would go under 95.5, and that was the correct outcome. And then 3 years ago, we predicted that they would again barely miss the playoffs, but go over 96.5%. They got actually exactly 101 points. They got to the playoffs, but the betting results was correct again. So 3 times in a row we have been able to predict correctly Minnesota points total. And how do you see, is there any bets available for this win total or points total that we would make this time?
We don't have the lines for the point total yet, but there could be something there if the line is set really low. I think Minnesota might be a little bit undervalued by the odds makers, but possibly also a little bit overvalued by our simulation. So I think if we find the mid there, we can maybe make some money. But what comes to reaching the playoffs, I think they have a great chance to do that. But going a lot further, it's a difficult thing to see because of the quality in the Western division is so good on the top. But like I said, the last 5 teams are all even, so playoffs could be done. But from that further, I don't think so.
What kind of odds there is currently available for reaching playoffs or winning division, maybe, if that is long shot for somebody?
Yeah, I think Minnesota. Let's see. Minnesota was actually favored 4th in the divisional race, so they have odds of 1,400 to win the division. So the odds makers are thinking, as we are, that they might actually make the playoffs. For Stanley Cup, the odds are unsurprisingly very low. They were at 6,000. So I don't see them winning the division, but I don't see them winning the Stanley Cup in any case. So maybe we stick to not putting any bets on Minnesota and keep our money for later.
Sounds good plan. We'll do so and continue to the next team.
Let's do that.